My niggas be cocking pistols.
Playing basketball in Pelican Bay.
You ain't my bitch, nigga. Buy your own damn fries.
What did you just say? What's up, my nigga?
So, you want to say the N-word. I get it. I've been there myself, actually. But before we make that a regular part of your vocabulary, let me give you a quick history lesson that might make you rethink a few things. Let's get into it. First up, the etymology of the N-word. A lot of people think the N-word comes from the Spanish word negro, which is technically incorrect. This one, the one with the single G, Niger, that actually does come first. It's Latin and similar to negro, it just means black in its original context. And so it wasn't always offensive. So when they're using it in Rome back in that time, it was just a descriptor to mean black. But here's the thing, this is something I want you to keep in mind throughout this video, is that the meaning of words change, and not just the meaning, but also the weight. Now, the N-word as we know today has two very different forms. The hard R, as you might have heard it being called, and the soft A, right? So the hard R is where the soft A is nigga. Now, it's recently come to my attention that some people think that these are the same word. They're under the impression that they're interchangeable somehow, but that's not quite the case. They are not the same word. The hard R is really a straight up slur. No one's saying that white or black unless they're intending to hurt somebody. Pretty much universally, white or black, nobody likes hearing this word, and realistically, you're going to be hearing non-black people say it more than black people themselves. The soft A version, however, that's a bit more complicated. In some contexts, it can mean friend.
My nigga.
And in other contexts, it can indeed be meant as an insult.
Shoe program, nigga.
But it's flexible, it's fluid, and oftentimes really it's quite neutral in its meaning. Ironically though, that is the version that gets the most offense, protection, and outrage from the black community. It's also the version we're going to spend the most amount of time talking about in this video, so essentially it's the soft A, who's allowed to say it, and why. So first we need to cover, how did nigger, a word that makes pretty much everybody cringe, white or black, become nigga, a word that somehow became one of the most widely used, highly protected, and hotly debated terms in our culture. Some people like to credit entertainers like Richard Pryor or Paul Mooney or the rap scene in general for that shift, and don't get me wrong, they definitely helped popularize it, but that flip did not start on stage. It was happening in the black community, in the homes and the neighborhoods and everyday conversations between black folks way before that. Now, if you look at literature from that time, from the mid-1930s, you'll see that black folk were already using the term with some degree of neutrality around that era. Not everyone, mind you, and it was certainly looked down upon by black intellectuals at the time, but it was still in use, we can see that much. And that's not to say that the word had become less painful by that time or anything like that. I just mean to say that we can see from the history that the word began to change slowly over time, going all the way back to that time, to the mid-1930s. Now, as far as how we went from nigger to nigga, the hard R, to the soft A, well, that was likely not some type of grand linguistic decision. It was most likely just a result of Southern black speech patterns, where words often ended with softer vowel sound. So brother became brother, sister became sister, and became nigga. Anyway, we fast forward a bit to the 1970s, and that's when we can see that black cultures are becoming way more prominent and way more widespread, evidenced by the popularity of shows like Good Times and Sanford and Sons, and the rise of icons like Michael Jackson and the aforementioned Richard Pryor. This naturally opened the door for other elements of black culture to follow, and especially relevant here is the spread of rap and hip-hop. And once rap started blowing up in the 70s and 80s, it was a rap. No pun intended. Artists like Schoolie D began to drop it in their tracks, and it kept showing up from there, a bit more confident, a bit more casual, and then that spread like wildfire. And then eventually NWA showed up on the scene, and the word went from being just a cultural word to a cultural statement. And then when hip-hop went global in the 90s, so did the word nigga. And now it's everywhere. Songs, stand-up, podcasts, movies.
What's up, my nigga?
And I get why people want to say it. Trust me. I do. It's because blackness, especially urban blackness, which is intrinsically connected to this word, became the blueprint for cool, not just here in the States, but global. And in a lot of ways, it still is.
수많은 이들 속 차지한 내 바로 잡초들 사이 활짝 핀 내 beauty flower. Belgian no choke, I'm a legend Thanos. Bruh.
I mean, let's be honest, there's really no other word out there that gets people this flustered about not being allowed to say it. Nobody's crying about not being able to say the F word in public. Nobody's running to Congress to fight for the R word. But tell someone they can't say nigga, and suddenly it's a First Amendment issue. They're on podcasts, they're on talk shows, writing op-eds, talking about how they're being silenced and how democracy is falling apart. And like I said, I get why they want to say it. Really, I do. In fact, there's two main reasons. The first is because it's taboo, and people are naturally drawn to what they're told they can't do. But like I said, that's true for the F word and the R word, and those don't get nearly the same energy. But the real reason is just that it's cool. It sounds cool, it feels cool, it carries a certain aura, if you will. But here's the thing people miss. Even though nigga got popularized through media and its connotation became more neutral over time, it never stopped carrying the legacy of everything it evolved from. The legacy of people who likely never could have imagined the level of controversy and infamy the word carries today. Which brings us to my next point. Who is actually allowed to say it? Technically, if you're black, you have a pass to say the N-word. But it's really not that simple. The N-word, as we know it today, was popularized by specific subcultures within the African American community. And, like all people, black folks are not a monolith. Take me, for example. I'm black, obviously, but I don't use the N-word. And not because I look down on it or think black people shouldn't use it. That couldn't be further from the truth. If Obama and Ta-Nehisi Coates use it, who am I to look down on them?
You ain't my bitch, nigga. Buy your own damn fries.
The reason that I don't use it is simply that I just did not grow up in that culture. I'm a first-generation immigrant. My parents came from the Caribbean and moved to the whitest town possible. And sure, I listened to some rap music growing up, but I wasn't nearly immersed enough in that culture for that word to become a natural part of my vocabulary. That's why many immigrants from Africa or the Caribbean don't connect with the word in the same way African Americans whose families have been here for generations might. That's not to say that I or people like me can't or shouldn't use the word. I just wanted to acknowledge that even within the black community, there's a nuanced understanding of the word's usage, its legacy, and its ownership. Now, let's flip the script a little bit. Let's take a look at Eminem. He's white, but grew up in a culture and environment much more similar to the one where the N-word was reclaimed and redefined. We've all seen the clips of Eminem using the word in his early days, and even more surprisingly, the people around him vibing with it.
With lick, pussy niggas stick with dick. Niggas act bully and blast for the fast pity. My order was fully. Plenty of niggas practicing me.
But somewhere down the line, he stopped. He stated the word made him feel uncomfortable, and he no longer uses it. And this is really where we get to the heart of the matter, because the following question that comes up always is, why can't white people say it? And honestly, I think that's a super fair question, and I think we should talk about it. So why can't white people say the N-word? Well, the first reason is we asked you not to, and really that should kind of be enough. But really the main reason we ask not to say it, the main reason we get upset when people say it, is out of respect for those who came before us. A big part of being black, and I mean African American in particular, is acknowledging the sacrifices, the suffering, and the strength of the people who came before us. Even if it's not something we're saying out loud, it is something that's kind of baked into the culture. Figures like Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, for African Americans whose ancestors were cut off from their original history, this is where a lot of our history begins. That's the first thing we're taught in school, and that's really all we kind of know about our history, these people. And all these figures are united in one thing. They're resisting the systemic oppression of the white ruling class of the day. We come from people who started at the bottom, slaves, stripped of their language, their freedom and identity, and despite that, when you give us a platform, we have a habit of creating magic. You let us perform, and we give you Michael Jackson. You let us play, and we give you LeBron James. You open up the tech field, and we give you Marquez Brownlee. If you heard the term black boy magic or black girl magic, that's the essence we're referring to. It's the story of black America. You give us scraps, and we turn it into something magical. And in a weird way, the N-word, with the soft A, is a microcosm of that. The black community took what was once the most hateful word in the English language and flipped it, turned it into something cool, something powerful, and something ours. So yeah, we guard it. But not just because it's ours per se, but because our ancestors couldn't. Our ancestors couldn't say no when they were called that word, but now we can. Think of it like this. If me and my twin brother here call each other idiots, that's just how we talk. It's part love, part joking, it's part of our history. But if I hear you, a stranger, calling my brother an idiot when he's not even around to defend himself, I might not feel something personally, I might not be personally offended, but I will feel something. I'll feel the need to step in because you don't know him like that. That word coming from you, it's not the same. It hits different. It's not even about the word. It's about the bond, the context, and the right to use it. And that's really what the N-word is for us. It's not about being petty. It's about protecting the dignity of a people who didn't always have the power to protect themselves. So if you say it around me, I might not get mad per se, but if I just let it slide, I do feel like I've failed to honor the people who came before me. I can just imagine Harriet Tubman up there shaking her head at me, because even if it is just a word, it still carries centuries of that pain, you know? And real quick, I also want to address this aspect of it. There's a lot of question from darker skinned minorities in particular, like Indians, Latinos, or the darker variety, that ask if they're allowed to say it. And to be fair, I think it's actually a fair question, because historically, was used as a bit of a catch-all for anyone who wasn't white. So there were Indians and Latinos and, or I guess, Native Americans at the time who were called. And this is strange to the fact that I feel like a lot of my Latino and Indian friends are acutely aware of, as if that's something that they've Googled beforehand multiple times. But here's my thoughts on that. Even though that's true, the weight of that word today is intrinsically tied to the black experience, in my opinion. There's the black community and the icons that I mentioned before that reclaimed it, flipped it, and paid the cultural cost to make it what it is. That, coupled with the fact that a lot of these same communities have some pretty significant, we'll call it anti-black problems, it gives me a bit of pause. I'm not saying this is the case for every member of those communities, but using the N-word and then staying silent when your family talks bad about black people or side-eyes them when they come into the room, it just feels incongruous to me. Personally, I wouldn't recommend saying it if you're outside the black community, because if Eminem, arguably the white ambassador to black people, doesn't feel comfortable using it, I feel like that should give you some pause too. No? At the end of the day, nobody's saying you should get arrested or you will get arrested for saying it. You shouldn't and you will. You're free to do as you choose, but there will be consequences naturally. But for me, I just wanted to do my best to articulate the history and the weight of the word so that you might make some better decisions. And alright, yeah, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, please hit that like or subscribe button. We're very close to 100,000 views, which is a huge milestone for me, so I definitely appreciate it. Alternatively, if you think I missed the mark or left something out, let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to respond. But for now, I'm your host, Vermillion. Thanks for watching the video, and remember, we live in the stories we tell ourselves. See you in the next one.